What is up, and welcome back to Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. As always, I am your host, Brandon Silvers. All right, we are deep in it with March Madness, and I've had all my experts on, but I cannot not have this expert on. This man has an encyclopedic knowledge of everything. The host of At the Plate with Danny Foxworth, and since we last spoke, it is my honor to be joined once again by Danny Foxworth. Danny, what's going on?
Sir, it is such an honor to be back on again. Thank you for having me.
No, man, thanks for being on. I see you got the Charleston Rainbows gear on, looking fly.
Hey, man, I got to take it back to the College Park days, man.
You see, always repping the low country. So let's get into it. Speaking of taking it back, what are some of your early March Madness memories?
Oh, wow. So a few that stand out. I'd say the first March Madness memory that really stood out to me was the 93 national championship between UNC and Michigan. And I remember that weekend, I spent that weekend at my cousin Kendall's house, and he was all about Michigan, and he was all about Chris Webber. And so it was down to the wire until the last couple of minutes, and then Chris Webber got the ball, traveled, no call, goes down the court, calls timeout and they have no timeouts left, and gets a technical foul. And my cousin Kendall, when I tell you he was dejected, I was smiling so big on the inside, but I had to keep it subdued because I'm at his house for the weekend.
That was gonna be a long weekend.
Yeah, I'm playing an away game, so to speak. So I was like, but I waited till I got back to school, and I already had my national championship shirt ready. Me and my dog Greg Smith, because he was a diehard Tar Heels fan too. And man, we were big flexing after that one.
That's hilarious.
My next memory was the following year. That was the first year in '94. That was the first year the College of Charleston made it to the NCAA tournament. And I remember on game day, our principal, after the last lunch period, he got on the intercom and he said, "All right, no more class for the rest of the day. Turn your TV on to Channel 5. We're all gonna watch the College of Charleston play." And that was such an awesome experience, seeing a local team, make it to the big dance. But one of my biggest takeaways from that was my English teacher, Miss Milligan. She's from downtown Charleston. She went to Burke High School. And the only time that Geechee really came out of her was if she was mad or if she got excited about something. And for some reason, when Marion Busby got fouled and he got to the free throw line and the camera got to him, and I'll never forget, Miss Milligan looked at him on the screen. She said, "Boy, they got some big teeth in it." And oh boy, I lost it. I was like, boy, I tell you, somehow, some way.
Wasn't one of them gold? Didn't he have a gold tooth too?
Yep, sure was. Somehow, some way, when that Geechee came out of her, I was like, yes. It felt like it almost felt like when you order from Chick-fil-A and they tell you you're welcome instead of my pleasure. I'm like, yes, there's still hope for you. You're not a robot just yet.
There's still some Charleston in there.
Yes.
That's hilarious, because I really think that coming up with the College of Charleston being in the tournament like that during my formative college basketball years, I think that's why I'm like a March Madness addict, because I'm like, man, this reminds me of my childhood and I love it so much. And then going back to the Fab Five, when your Tar Heels beat them, that was really wild, because I mean, we've seen the 30 for 30 and everything, and what the Fab Five meant to Black culture in particular. But I mean, UNC is still, even Eric Montross with the damn Marine haircut, still pulled it off.
Yep, looking like a big ass state trooper.
Yeah, that's a good comp right there. Which kind of leads, this is an interesting question. So as a UNC fan, I was thinking of 90s UNC players who, if I had been named GM of an NBA team, would have cost me my job because I would have drafted them so high. Are there any guys like that? You're like, man, I thought he was going to crush it in the league. Because, I mean, they had talent. They had Montross didn't do a lot, but they had Stackhouse and Sheed came through during this time period. So many guys. Anybody who you were like, man, I thought that dude was going to be it. And I would be in the unemployment line today.
J.R. Reed. Oh. J.R. Reed is my first pick. I thought he was going to dominate in the NBA. I mean, he had a decent career, but it wasn't the career that I anticipated him having.
The first thing that comes to mind with J.R. Reed is I was watching when he elbowed AC Green and he knocked his teeth out on national TV.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
And I was like, I couldn't believe it because AC Green, super religious dude, remained a virgin until he was married on the Showtime Lakers. He pulled this off because he was so strong in his faith, which is stronger than, like, come on. And so I'm thinking, like, this man, God is still testing him by having his teeth on the ground.
Yeah.
And
God bless him, boy.
That's been like a big fear of mine ever since, just watching that happen and see calmly, coolly played all those, holds the record for consecutive games played. And he didn't miss a game with this, but seeing him calmly bend over and pick up his teeth off the ground. I tell you what, the mouth guard industry made a lot of money from me that day.
Indeed.
But there were a couple of UNC guys who, looking back, I don't know what I was thinking, but I guess I was hyped for this one. But Serge Zwicker, I thought Big Serge.
You and me both. You and me both.
I was like, that's Rick Smits right there. I know it.
Yeah. And I mean, didn't he wear number 45 too?
I believe so. And I think he was from the Netherlands. So I was like, this dude, he pulled the same scam that Michael Olowokandi did, where he was like, okay, a 7-foot Nigerian, Olajuwon, could it be? It was not.
It was not.
And then who else? Dante Calabria, Ed Cota. I thought Ed Cota.
Yes, sir. He was so cold.
Yes, I still can't understand why he didn't make it. But no, so you and your Tar Heels, y'all didn't make it this season because, Hubert Davis does not pay $100 for his haircuts like Jalen Rose.
Nope.
But
gets his hair lined up with a spoon, but
you hate to see it, man.
Yeah.
As someone like I still can appreciate a good lineup despite my current situation, and Hubert don't have one.
No, that's
so y'all didn't make it, but did you still fill out a bracket for the men's and women's side?
Yeah, unfortunately, I did.
What is your bracket strategy?
Honestly, my strategy is just fly by the seat of my pants, and clearly, I need to find a different strategy because I'm in a group chat with two other of my homies, and we do a bracket every year on the ESPN website. And I think last year I came in dead last, and this year I'm currently in dead last. And we decided to do the women's tournament bracket too, and I'm dead last in that as well.
Oh no, man.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I mean, who had a 16 upsetting a 1, even as little as I believe in Purdue and Zach Edey, who is today's Serge Zwicker.
Yeah.
But there's been some wild upsets on the men's and the women's side. I know Stanford and Indiana on the women's side, 2 number 1 seeds, they're already out.
Yeah, that Stanford loss, that one stunned me.
Could not believe it. That definitely messed up my bracket because they just that's a wagon of a team, but the SEC is not to be trifled with in women's basketball. So throw out your bracket if you need to, or maybe you might still have the Final Four still ready. But based on what you've seen so far, who do you have winning it?
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna go with
that's how
I'm gonna go with Houston.
Okay. It's so hard to get a feel for it on the men's side.
Yeah.
Because it's like, first of all, the whole left side of my bracket, I don't know what I was doing. But Bama looks all right. But then they got Miller, Brandon Miller, who they're talking about he's got some sort of injury he's nursing. The
Mm-hmm.
dude from Houston does too. It's like no one's really standing out, which is good,
Right.
but it's bad when I want to look smart, which is the most important thing.
100% agree with you. Yeah, it's no telling who's going to win this tournament, to be honest.
Now, are you someone who, like, if there's a big upset like Fairleigh Dickinson,
Mm-hmm.
that messed up my bracket, but I was pulling for the upset in spite of that because I like seeing big upsets. Do you prefer to keep your bracket intact, or are you in favor of the upset if it messes up your bracket? What's more important to you?
If the upset comes at the expense of maybe Duke or Virginia,
Oh yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I mean, my feelings on Virginia basketball. I feel like they've set the sport back.
Oh my God.
Every possession, I'm fighting sleep. I don't know what's going on. And
It's
so
ridiculous.
to see them lose in the way, because I feel like it's more of a rival for you, but I feel like, do you think that they give off like, oh, we're smarter about basketball than everyone else?
Who, Virginia?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I feel like
100%.
it's like a condescending feel. And so to see them lose in such a stupid manner to a South Carolina team, man, I was doing sprints around the house.
It was too poetic.
I know you
So
love that.
poetic.
And then
Yes.
Duke got run off the court.
Yeah. And as much as I loved it, to be fair, I couldn't really get the jokes off the way that I wanted to on Twitter because we were the preseason number one and we didn't even make the tournament. So I don't have a leg to stand on.
Okay,
And
but I'm curious. So
Mhm.
does that make it even funnier that y'all ended Coach K's career?
uh, I still take delight in that, but
But you want to
now that
win.
he's not the coach anymore, so yeah, it's still stung a hell of a lot that we didn't even make it to the tournament, being the preseason number one.
Yeah, 'cause I don't think that's ever happened before.
I
Or
don't think so either.
like, I don't know. Because I was thinking, I mean, y'all look so good. What do you think the problem was as far as Hubert and whatever was going on?
I don't know, man. I, I don't know.
It was just
It
all
just
bad.
Yeah, it's all bad. They just could not get it done. They couldn't gel for
Hmm.
some reason. I'm still blaming Hubert Davis.
You know what? Thinking of his hairline again, I can't argue with that.
All his fault. All his fault.
Come on. Come on. And then on the women's side, this might be silly, but who do you have women winning on the women's side?
Oh, everybody in my group chat's bracket it's all South Carolina.
It ends the same way. I
Yeah.
don't see how, especially with Stanford, who I thought was going to be their toughest competitor.
Me too.
It seems like a cakewalk to the final, and then it's whoever's left standing.
Yep, pretty much. I think they've won, what, 39 straight?
Something crazy. It's just like,
it's ridiculous.
Dawn Staley needs to be my life coach.
Yeah, no kidding.
She's always on the sideline, swagged out. She's got y'all must shop at the same place because she had the Cheney State jersey on Sunday.
Telling you, I need to do some jersey recon. See where she gets her stuff from.
Let me know. So we talked about, you got the two podcasts. Tell us a little bit about them, and then I got something special, something a surprise. But tell us about At the Plate and Since We Last Spoke.
Okay. Well, At the Plate is just a podcast of where I'm in a nutshell talking to my Twitter friends about their favorite baseball teams. Once I realized that there was so many of my Twitter friends that enjoy baseball as much as I do, because baseball is my first love, and figuring out that they all each of them root for a different team in the league. So it makes for a more interesting and more fresh conversation that way. And it's been a hell of a lot of fun doing it. You know, I was I was terrified at first. I'm not going to lie to you, but I feel like I'm slowly starting to get into the groove and just building the rapport and the back and forth with the guests, and especially when we get into the 5 question segment, which I enjoy because I just like throwing off the wall stuff at them to see what kind of answers I can get out of them. But yeah, it's been a great experience. But since we last spoke, I just wanted to get a little more personal because you see me on IG, just always posting stuff, and but I don't really talk about me, like what I'm going through. So since we last spoke, I like to wait a while before I put out another episode, so I can let life happen. I can have some stuff to document in those experiences, and then I can put that on podcast and then send it out.
Yeah, since we last spoke, that's interesting that you are intentional about the timing with which you release the episodes, because I find that is normally a short and sweet episode, but it's something that you want to go back and listen to a couple times. Like listen to it once, I let it marinate, and then listen to it again, because you're talking about your life and everything, but there's like lessons in it that you can get from it. And so it's an easy listen, but then there's always something in it that I take from it. So listening to it a couple times to make sure I get everything from it, I enjoy. And then at the plate, you got a monster right there too, man. That thing is so fun. You get the best guest. I'm not even saying that because I was on it. I'm saying you get the best guest, even excluding me, although I will include me. But
include yourself.
Yeah,
lean into your greatness.
Yes, sir. I mean, every time I'm like, Danny, you got me with a list of podcasts I need to listen to, because you bring on a bunch of people, they got their podcasts or their different creative things they're doing, and I'm following people, I'm listening to people, and there's always someone who is super entertaining. And the fact that it is so entertaining around something that I've had a love-hate relationship with, baseball, gets me hyped up, because you got me ready for the season. More on that in a little bit. But the guest in particular, how do you know all these damn people?
And we've been friends with them I've been friends with them on Twitter, and prior to that, some of them I've been friends with on certain message boards. So a lot of these relationships go back, almost double-digit years.
Man, that's crazy. And you mentioned like being nervous starting out, and I definitely can relate to that. I mean, still sometimes I'm a little shaky, but to see you were good to start with, which is unusual because this is hard, but then to see you progress has been incredible to watch how this thing is clicking for you.
I appreciate that, man. Yes. It's a lot of fun to do. I always look forward to hitting that record button.
Absolutely. So I mentioned I had a surprise. You mentioned the 5 question segment. I have put together 5 questions for Danny Foxworth.
How dare you? Let's go.
I'm stealing it. So question number 1. Which low country area restaurant that's gone out of business would you bring back?
Oh, man. I would bring back,
that's a tough one because they like to shut all the good ones down.
I got a 1A and a 1B. I would bring back Alouette's Cafe. It used to be on Reed Street, and I would bring back Bodacious Burger. That used to be on Market Street. Alouette's Cafe, it was a soul food spot, and they had the best damn fish stew I've ever had in my life. I mean, every Saturday I would go down to Reed Street and walk in there, and I mean, I was almost on a first name basis with them because I spent so much money in there. And I can't remember when they closed, but I guess the people that own that property, I want to say it was Burris Liquors. I guess they sold that property to a development company out of Charlotte. So they ended up tearing Alouette's down, and surprise, there's a hotel there now.
Get out.
And yeah. And Bodacious Burger was on Market Street. It was there, gosh, probably around 2005. Do you remember the Bull and Finch?
Yeah.
It was in the same building where the Bull and Finch used to be. When Bull and Finch closed, then they replaced it with Bodacious Burger.
Okay.
But Bodacious Burger, they had like different kinds of meats that they would make into a burger. Like they had, they had beef, they had cow burger, you had bison, you had black bean burger, they had an ostrich burger, they had a venison burger. That ostrich burger was slamming.
I can't even. That's probably a hotel now too, but I can't even wrap my head around an ostrich burger.
Yeah, it kind of had a slight sweetness to it. It was really, really good.
Damn, that's a great answer because now you're making me hungry. All right. Question number 2. Who is your favorite athlete of all time from the Low Country? Or they can just be Low Country ties.
Oh my gosh.
We've had a lot of talent.
Joe Hamilton, Georgia Tech quarterback. Alvin, South Carolina, Macedonia High School. Best high school quarterback I've ever seen in my life.
In today's NFL, would Joe Hamilton be the man?
Yes.
He was a monster at Georgia Tech. Yeah, I didn't see it. I didn't have the honor of seeing him in high school. I know at Georgia Tech, I don't know how you would stop Joe Hamilton. And the way the offenses are now,
he would eat.
Yes, he was like a decade or two. He was like 15 years before his time. This dude, go on YouTube after you watch this. Look up Joe Hamilton.
I mean, he came in second in the Heisman voting.
Yeah, in my opinion, super biased, should have won.
Yeah, agreed.
That's a hell of an answer. All right. Question number 3. Who is your dream guest for At the Plate with Danny Foxworth?
My dream guest is Ricky. I got Ricky Henderson and Ron Washington.
There we go.
Ricky Henderson is because he's my personal GOAT in baseball. Greatest leadoff hitter ever. I don't care what anybody says. And the fact that he just he refers to himself in the third person, like people breathe. And it always makes for an interesting conversation. I would just love to pick his brain, just seeing how he studies the pitcher's ticks and tendencies and, seeing like if the pitcher, like whenever he lifts his leg and that gives him the signal to go when he's stealing a base. Just want to see what goes on in his head before he decides to steal the base. And Ron Washington, because I mean, I'm a Texas Rangers fan. He was the manager. He took us to back-to-back World Series. And on top of that, aside from that, just seeing him doing the fielding drills with his infielders and just seeing how dedicated and how passionate he is and how great of a teacher he is to these young infielders. I'd also like to just pick his brain as well.
He looks like he looks like baseball knowledge to me. Like if you were to look up baseball knowledge in the dictionary, you would see Ron Washington.
100%.
So I'm looking forward to seeing both those interviews in the future.
Yes.
All right. Question number 4. If you had to choose one major league professional sport to bring to the Low Country, what would it be?
I would have to say, man, I guess Major League Baseball.
I think it would do well. I still feel like we support the River Dogs pretty well.
Yeah, I mean they're back-to-back league champions. I mean the ballpark is prime. I mean it's prime location.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. That would be the answer I would go with.
That would be good because I mean the River Dogs and a major league team need to go ahead and hit you up. I know that much.
Yeah.
And this is bringing it back to March Madness. What is your favorite basketball shoe ever?
Oh man, my favorite basketball shoe ever is the 96 up tempos, the Scottie Pippen joints. The ones that
Okay.
had the air on the side and the big
Yes.
letters.
Yes.
Yeah, those I had those in 11th grade. And I need to go and get me another pair too because those shoes they were just so clean to me.
I think I can still picture like the ad in Slam magazine for them. I still see the big air.
Mm-hmm.
They need to make it easier for us to get our hands on shoes from back then. I
Yeah.
gotta sell a kidney.
Yeah, no kidding. These resellers, boy, they just messing the game up.
I hate them. I hate them.
Me too.
All right. So I don't want to keep you too long, but let us know where we can find you and your podcast. And then I'll let y'all know where y'all can find Danny next on the Beyond the Arc universe of what I got going on.
You can find me on all streaming platforms as at the plate with Danny Foxworth, and also since we last spoke with Danny Foxworth. At the plate right now, I'm putting out new episodes every week, and since we last spoke, I put new episodes out just whenever I feel the need to put those episodes out. But you can also find me on IG at Danny Foxworth 843, and you can also find me on Twitter at Foxworth Danny.
And I, again, highly recommend both podcasts. Super entertaining, always something great. The Since We Last Spoke is like a nice little happy surprise. Like, oh, okay, here we go. We got something today. And then Danny is going to be joining me and Brett on the Major League Baseball preview show. We're going to drop that on Monday. They're going to get my basketball self ready for this upcoming MLB season.
Looking forward to it.
Man, it is going to be a blast. So, Danny, man, appreciate you being on again. I'll see you very soon.
Thank you, sir.
Everyone else, hang tight because we got some Brett's picks coming up. Okay, as promised, I'm joined once again by Brett Gosnell, our NCAA and sports gambling and whatever else I need him to do expert. Brett, what is going on?
How's it going?
Going good. So first things first, I know we got the bracket strategy challenge. Let's update the leaderboard from last week's games.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen. One, because I need to, and two, because my camera quit working.
Yep, just have some technical difficulties. It's live, fake live TV, folks.
All right. Can you see my screen?
I can.
Stop video. Okay, here we go. So here is our leaderboard. As you can see, Kobe the dog is in the lead with 200 units. He hit 4 out of 6 plays, which is what Silvers and I also did. We hit 4 of 6, but one of mine and Silver's losses was a minus 120. So we are both $20 back, 20 units, units back of Kobe the dog. That's where those money lines get you. So yes, Kobe, Silvers, and I are the 3 leaders in terms of percentage games right, but Kobe, the leader where it matters, the only place it matters in these sweet, sweet fictional units. He is up 200. Silvers and I are up 180, and Coach and PD both even. So nobody had a bad week.
Honestly, not bad. And Kobe started off hot with his bracket because he immediately got the Furman, the famed Furman pick we were discussing. He got that right out the gate. And we will, from now on, be calling his upset picks pup sets. Just so you know.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Because he is big on the pup sets. He loves underdogs, obviously dogs.
Yeah.
And so that's why he's made more money, fake money, IRS, than we have.
Yes. He was also smart enough not to pick either Mountain West team.
That's really what screwed us.
Yeah. Yes, I trusted the Mountain West. That was very, very dumb. I had them as two of my picks, Boise and Utah State, and neither of them came close, actually. They were terrible.
Yes. And as far as the full brackets that everyone submitted, I know Brett didn't submit one because he's doing the picks each week. But in this orange section here where it says best pick cumulative, I took the best pick. Like if someone had picked the team to win, I filled out a bracket doing that out of all the experts. In round one, we as a unit picked 30 of the 32 games right. And then in round two, we picked 15 out of the 16 games right. So going forward, it would behoove you to follow what we're doing and then also figure out which ones are the correct ones to pick.
So, yeah, something about that didn't seem right as you were explaining it.
I tried to hold it together and make it sound like I had done something really good, but I knew I was full of shit. But anyways, so action-packed first round. A lot of pup sets, as Kobe would call them, with the Furman win, as I mentioned, then the Fairleigh Dickinson and Princeton in the Sweet 16 as well. Anything stand out to you?
Well, so obviously for the second time ever, we saw a 16 seed win. I remember like it was yesterday, the first time Baltimore beating Virginia.
Thank God.
This one, I feel like was maybe a slightly less entertaining game than the first 16 one, but it was still amazing. Any game Purdue's involved with is going to be less entertaining than the alternative. But yeah, I watched intently like the last 4 minutes of that game, and Purdue just looked absolutely horrible, and Fairleigh Dickinson looked very good. I mean, they were playing fantastic defense. Like if you didn't know who was who, you would not have thought you were watching a 16 seed here.
Not at all. And speaking of their defense, so I was ranting about this on Twitter. Steve Lapis was one of the commentators for the game, and Zach Edey for Purdue, 7'4". Purdue has the tallest team in the nation. Fairleigh Dickinson has the shortest. So 7'4", Zach Edey was crushing Fairleigh Dickinson because he is above, like he's a freak. He's a giant.
Yeah.
They came out of a timeout, and the sideline reporter mentioned how Tobin Anderson, Fairleigh Dickinson's coach, who's moved on to Iona now, that happens quick no one complains as much when you're not a player. But the sideline reporter mentioned how Tobin Anderson had decided to instead front Edey from now on and have a defender in front of him and force the Purdue guards to make like more of a lob pass into the post and guard it that way and send help from the backside. And Steve Lapis was crushing them. Like, I don't know why you would do that. You can just throw it over the top. And it's so easy at that point. And
not as easily.
No, he was dead ass wrong. That really sparked them because they couldn't get the ball into the post to save their lives. And I think people really underestimate, first of all, just making a normal post entry pass is a lost art, and it's super hard to do. But particularly when you have a guy fronting your big man and help coming on the back end, that's not an easy nothing pass. And Steve Lapis was treating it like it was. And I was like, you're an asshole.
Well, so I don't know that much about Zach Edey, but anybody that's 7'4", when they've got to catch a pass and then turn into help, a lot of times they're not going to be coordinated. You know, if they got to put the ball on the floor, that's going to just fuck them all up.
Yes.
Anything other than just simple post stuff. So anything you can do to make them have to make a play as a 7'4", likely uncoordinated person, you're doing yourself a favor there.
Absolutely. And so it was a great adjustment, as we saw. And Purdue is at home. And you're right. That's a boring team. That's why I was rooting against Virginia, both against Furman and back when they got upset. I don't want to see boring teams at all. This is March Madness, okay? Not March run 27 seconds off the shot clock and put me to sleep. So
Purdue definitely had the hardest route. I can't show it now, but Purdue only had a 25% chance to make the Final Four, which was the lowest of all the 1 seeds. Because everybody was talking about how good this 8-9 Memphis, Florida Atlantic, how good that matchup was going to be against Purdue. Then they'd have to run into – everybody thought it was going to be Duke they ran into, and Duke might have been favored that game over Purdue. But Purdue didn't even make it out of that first game. Just crazy.
Fantastic. And they deserved every bit of it. I'm looking to
Absolutely.
see the Princeton game. I mean, they're in the Sweet 16. They look for real.
Yeah.
Arizona, another super talented team. But you know why I didn't believe in Arizona?
Why's that?
They have this kid, Kerr Cretia, I believe is his name. He's a little guard. I think his dad might have played with Steve Kerr in college at Arizona. Steve Kerr also went to Arizona. And I believe if he didn't play, the kid is at least named after Steve Kerr. And he asked to have Kerr's number unretired. He wears a jersey, 25, like Kerr did at Arizona, Steve Kerr, and also wears Kerr on the back of his jersey, even though that's first
not
name.
His last name. Huh.
And it's super weird to me. And so I don't trust teams with super weird point guards who idolize Steve Kerr. That's just a rule I have. If you have a different rule, but that's too weird.
As a big soccer fan, I love the idea of your first name on the back of your jersey instead of your last name. That is very cool. But yeah, to do it for Steve Kerr when you're already wearing his number and you're already named after him, that is kind of like I was named after George Brett, the baseball player, but I didn't wear his number, and I certainly didn't. I chose not to play for the Kansas City Royals. They wanted me to. I certainly didn't bring his number out of retirement for them. That is very odd.
Yeah. And how do you feel about Pine Tar?
Don't get me started. You're good thing this camera's off.
But yeah, so can you pull up the women's side as well? Because that was a little more nuts, and I had a lot more trouble picking those games than I thought someone of my expertise would.
Real quick, the Furman Virginia ending.
Okay,
you want to talk that one through,
please? Thank you. So, first of all, we all hate Virginia because, as I mentioned, they suck all the fun out of basketball. And they had that game, and they throw it in to Kihei Clark, who's been there since Steve Kerr was at Arizona. Like, this kid's been there forever. And all you hear about is this kid, he's good for like a 5'10" Division I player, but he gets described with the attributes like he's very smart, steady, these kind of things to let you know he's not actually super skilled. And been there 47 years, gets the ball in the corner with a timeout. And instead of making an easy pass or calling the timeout, tries to heave it.
That was insane.
I could not believe what I was watching. I started cackling like a madman. And I don't know. It looks like he was trying to throw it to a teammate on the other end of the court and grossly overestimated his own arm strength because it wasn't even close.
Yeah. And, credit to Furman for they had him trapped and they didn't foul.
Yep.
I was expecting the foul to come at any moment. And there was very little time left on the clock. And they knew they had him trapped and they stuck with it. That was a very good play on their part. But then, yes, obviously just shitting the bed entirely by Virginia.
That's been paying off, the not fouling immediately, because the same thing happened at the end of the Memphis Florida Atlantic game.
I was about to bring that up because you mentioned timeout utilization.
Penny acted like he was getting paid for each one he called.
that was so terrible. And then the one time that he should have called, that he did correctly call the timeout, they didn't give it to him.
Yeah. And so that was tough, but I think it's the basketball gods were like, hey, you've made the last 3 minutes last half an hour, so you don't get this one.
Yep.
Also the refs, who think they are basketball gods.
Yeah. Yeah, that was so terrible. First of all, not giving the kid the timeout, and then using the timeout to set his defense up when they were coming off of a stoppage. I mean, I don't know if it was like, I think Florida Atlantic had just called a timeout. So I mean, like, we were in, or at least it was a commercial or something. There was a long period where you could have set up your defense, as if there's anything to set up.
Correct.
They're inbound and under the basket. I mean, so yeah. And then he calls another timeout, which was his last. So then when they have 3 seconds left on the clock, they've got to just chuck it in and pray.
Yep. And we saw how that worked out. But it is with defense, everything you set with defense is going to be stuff you've practiced throughout the season. And on top of that is going to be stuff that you've seen when you're scouting the team you're about to play. There are no real surprises on defense when you get down to the final seconds, because you've scouted this team and you should know, and you might need to remind your guys, hey, this is the tendency here. But to me, it feels like it's easier to defend against a game-winning shot than to make one.
Absolutely.
Like you said,
you've done them a favor.
Yeah. You're doing them because you're letting them, even if you think, oh, we saw something here, so we need to call timeout and address it. Well, the other team's just going to change what they're doing at that point. Oftentimes they go out with a decoy set to force you to call a timeout.
Yeah. And
makes no sense.
They had defended very well down the stretch. Like, Florida Atlantic had made some miracle threes, and twice they had them in a shot clock violation situation that Florida Atlantic just had to heave it and they got a rebound. Like, Florida Atlantic was very lucky to score as much as they did down the stretch, because Memphis had played fantastic defense. Then after that timeout, they give up a damn layup. It's like it hurt them.
Yes, when you are a 2 can hurt you. You're up 1. They do a reckless closeout on a 3 and give up a layup, and it just makes no sense. Like, you call timeout for that? Did you not remind them of simple basketball rules? Like, don't give up a layup when that will beat you.
Yeah, that was, and it was so. I mean, I guess always you're going to shoot as fast as you can to give yourself a chance at the offensive rebound, but Florida Atlantic especially, because they were getting so many offensive rebounds. Like, I just knew, like, they're going to take this shot quickly because they have been getting like half the potential offensive rebounds. They want to give themselves that opportunity. So if you get the rebound, you are going to have time to call a timeout and run some sort of play here. And they did, but they didn't have the timeout.
Exactly. So now stop using timeouts as college basketball coaches the way you're doing it. You're overthinking this. It's really not that hard.
Football too. I mean, it's the same exact thing in football. They're so terrible at it. I mean, we don't need to go down this damn road, but like, it's just amazing in professional or in college sports how coaches that are getting paid millions of dollars so horribly mismanage timeouts and into game situations.
It is absolutely ridiculous. But great coaches like Dawn Staley at the University of South Carolina. So they beat Norfolk State. They didn't beat them by as much as people were thinking. but it was still like a 30-point win. So, I mean, what are you going to do? And then the South Florida game, that was tough. But watching South Carolina women play basketball is kind of like watching one of those nature videos with an anaconda. We're like, okay, whatever the anaconda, like the antelope, is going to be fighting or whatever, but the giant anaconda eventually just squeezes the life out of it, and then that's a wrap. That's really how this game went, because they hung tough, but what are you going to do?
We've seen this script many, many times this year. We'll have a first quarter where we might score 10 points. It'll be tied at halftime, and then second half, it's a wrap.
Yeah. And so they look incredible. Also, their road gets a little bit easier because the team that I thought was going to give them trouble in Stanford, they got upset by Ole Miss. The SEC is looking like a wagon. It feels like football season with the way the SEC is performing in this tournament.
That is shocking upset there. And speaking of South Carolina's road, the 1 versus 4 matchup, which do we have one on the men's side here? We've got 2 1 versus 5s. So just for reference, Houston 79%, Bama 76%. Women's 1 versus 4 matchup, South Carolina 98% chance to advance past UCLA.
That's incredible.
We're just talking about a overwhelming favorite here. Still almost a 2-3 chance to win the national title at this point.
I mean, I don't know what you do, because even their bad games are good games.
Yep.
And
it's like we talked about with the national championship in football with Georgia. It's like their defense, which is their calling card, can absolutely not show up. And then Stetson Bennett and a bunch of guys with 600 yards receiving or rushing on the year will still beat you. It's like there's no way they can lose.
That's a great comp.
Yeah, it's like no matter what you do to us, you can take Aaliyah Boston out of the game. You can hold us to 15 points in a first quarter, and we're still going to find a way to win. And it's not going to be close either.
No, because the South Florida game, that didn't end up being close. Norfolk State was, like I said, closer than they thought. It was still 30 points.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine what they would have to do to lose to South Florida. So I think that 98% sounds about right. With the Stanford loss, I still, because with the women's tournament, if you're a higher seed, it's a home game for you. So it's even more of an advantage. Like Stanford was on their campus, and Ole Miss just went in there and basically bullied them out of a win.
The teams from Mississippi always help us. Our first national title, it was Mississippi State knocking out UConn for us. But we don't need any help this year, but still. And we're playing in Greenville now. So, we haven't had to leave the state. We're getting that UConn treatment where they let them just play all their games up there. So we're finally getting that. So if it's Notre Dame, we've got a 93% chance to get past Notre Dame.
Incredible.
That's the 3 seed. The 2 seed, Maryland, 92% chance. If we get the Iowa matchup, which would be a lot of fun, 83% chance to get past Iowa.
And that feels right because I watched the Iowa-Georgia game. Georgia should have won it. And then like the last 4 possessions when it mattered, they just unforced turnover. Let's throwing the ball to Iowa. Just really weird stuff. Like I thought it was a wrap, but they made things hard for Iowa on offense, and that's off Iowa's calling card. Weird to say that about Iowa because if you've watched,
I haven't made that connection yet. Yeah, that's
you know that their coach is not named Ferentz. There's no
Yeah.
Ferentz with the associated with women's basketball. But that was a good game. Iowa looked like I said, they had a lot of trouble. Caitlin Clark, incredible. She still had a great game, but it wasn't easy for her. And then on the other side, the other number one team, I think the only team in 2023, maybe not like early season, but in the last part of the season here, who has received the first place vote in the women's poll, Indiana, they lost to Miami. They lost to Miami on the men's side too.
That was crazy. Yeah, that back-to-back days. Yeah, that was nuts.
So that's even easier because that's who I thought we would end up facing. But you still
Yeah.
have Virginia Tech in it. UConn, I mean, they've looked incredible. Azzy Fudd, we talked about her. She looks very good coming back from that injury. But I'm still just not super concerned after seeing how we've looked so far.
So UConn, if they face Virginia Tech 2 versus 1, the 2 seed UConn would be a 65% chance to advance. So they're certainly the favorite to face us. LSU as a 3 seed is a 74% chance to get past the 2 seed Utah. So let's say it's them that comes out. That's a coin toss game right there, according to 538. LSU versus UConn, 51% in favor of UConn. That's interesting.
If that happens, I like our chances against LSU more than UConn. I mean, we saw what happened in the regular season.
Yeah,
we drilled them.
LSU, you could kind of say feels like the team we were. How many ever years ago now? 6, 7 years ago. Very good, dominate a lot of teams, but when you hit like back then, we'd play UConn and still lose by 20.
Yeah,
that kind of feels like where LSU's at.
But they're fun to watch too. They talk a lot of shit. I like that.
Yeah, oh yeah. So this potential Final Four here, this could be the most entertaining Final Four we could have dreamed of, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, I wasn't looking forward to watching Indiana play. No offense to them, but they don't play an exciting style. But then you got LSU with Angel Reese, who's incredible. I mean, their whole team is stacked. And then you get to root against Kim Mulkey Robertson, which everyone loves to do.
Yeah. So LSU certainly the most entertaining team to come out of this quadrant. UConn, just the storylines, clearly the most entertaining team that could come out of this one. Obviously, we're going to say South Carolina, and then I think I was more entertaining than Stanford. I don't think that's really debatable with Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, I agree. So we're still set up for that, and I am excited because I still love our chances. They're only getting better.
Yep.
So let's talk about what you are picking this week.
All right. So I'm getting a lot more risky this round. But am I? Because I'm not taking any Mountain West teams. So maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm being a lot more conservative here. So I'm going to pick 4 games. First game, my favorite pick, the one that I'm going to place some real units on, I think. I am going to take Texas over Xavier. Texas is a 70% chance to win. They're minus 200 in the betting line. So that's good value there. With minus 200 is really saying they're about a 66% favorite. So I've got a little bit of edge there with the 538 telling me they're 70%. So my first pick is going to be Texas minus 200. Xavier looked very good the other day. Against Pitt, they looked very bad the first round. But they looked dominant against Pitt. But, you know, there's a reason that I don't trust my own eyes here. I don't know anything about basketball. I trust Nate Silver a lot more than myself here. So I'm going to put my faith in the system here and take the Longhorns minus 200. And the stuff with the coach, I don't care that the coach is gone. I don't think that really matters that much, to be honest.
They've looked better with the interim guy, Rodney Terry, than I thought they looked with Chris Beard.
Yeah. So, that doesn't bother me. So first pick, Texas minus 200. Next, I'm going to buck the system just a little bit. Everything I just said about not trusting myself, I'm going to betray all of that, and I'm going to take Miami plus 255. So the odds say they've only got a 1 in 5 shot of winning this game, but they dominated Indiana's ass. I mean, they just thoroughly dominated that game. If they missed a shot, they got the offensive rebound easily. They were just tougher, grittier. They played fast. They played smart, got people that can shoot. They played tenacious defense. Like, I just don't see – man, I obviously don't think they're going to win it all or anything, but I don't see very many weaknesses in this team. And, Houston's a tad bit suspect to me. They when did they go out last year? They had a really good team last year and went out a little earlier than they should too, I think.
I was going to say Kelvin Sampson, he'll give up an easy one in March. Their coach, like he'll go out early.
Yeah. And Jim Larinaga at Miami, I think he's a legitimately good coach. I mean, he got him to the Elite Eight last year, I believe.
Yeah, they're in his tenure, they've really outperformed their seed a lot, I feel like. And
yeah,
we were talking too, they make their offense, it's so simple.
Yeah.
And you don't want to overcomplicate offense and call a bunch of timeouts like Penny Hardaway. Like, offense is, this is what we do. Make 2, play 1, hit the open man, hit the offensive glass, get out in transition when you can. Boom.
That's exactly what they did to Indiana, and they had a killer mentality in that game. Like, they come out of the gates, got up big. Indiana kind of got lucky, I felt like, to get back in the game and had it pretty close at halftime. Miami immediately come out the second half, foot on the throat, stretched it out. Anytime Indiana started to make some shots and inch a little bit closer, Miami just, the killer instinct took over, and they looked like a, dare I say, a championship basketball team. I'm not going to go that far, but they look the part to me.
At least so, like an Elite Eight basketball team.
Is that right? Yeah. Probably not the talent level to win a championship, but I think they've got the mentality, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I'm going to definitely take them plus 255, 2.5 to 1 odds there. So one game I'm trusting my own eyes. One game I'm trusting Nate Silver. We'll see who is right on that side of the bracket. Other side
debate.
Other side, I'm going to bet against the Mountain West. I've been chomping at the bit to do this because they suck. I'm going to take Alabama minus 350. I guess I'm bucking the system a little bit here too, because it says Bama should only be a 3 to 1 favorite, and they're 3.5 to 1. So I'm losing a little bit of value on my play here, but if 538 is wrong about anything, it's 2016 presidential elections and the quality of Mountain West basketball teams. So I don't think San Diego State has a prayer. I'm going Bama. And finally,
so real quick on the Mountain West.
Yeah.
What do you think is at play there? Because I mentioned how well we did with when I picked all of the brackets. I picked the winners and got 30 out of 32, which is a bullshit stat, but that's what stats are for, bullshitting. But everyone consistently picked the College of Charleston, who should have beat San Diego State, but they didn't.
Yeah.
But clearly everyone picked College of Charleston, Kobe included, because we're biased against Charleston because we're in Charleston. Do you think Nate Silver looks at these Mountain West kids and are like, man, these look like kids who also have a love for Excel formulas? So
I think he doesn't look at the kids at all. I think that's the issue. I mean, I think it's as simple as they've just got the conference slightly overvalued because, when you're setting up something like this where you're matching teams up and giving their percentage chance of winning, you're factoring in like strength of schedule, obviously, because somebody's going to have a better record than somebody else, but you have to factor that in. Well, this team actually played people and this team didn't. I think they've just got the strength of the schedule cranked a little too high on these Mountain West teams because their records aren't really that good either. It's not like Utah State lost 2 games. Like they had like 10 losses on the year, but 538 loved them. Ken Palm, who a lot of experts trust, he had them like the number 18 team in the country, and they just look like shit. I mean, and Boise too. Boise was a beloved team by all the statisticians, and you look at them on the floor, like there's nothing impressive about these teams.
No, and like I said, if the College of Charleston, they were missing shots and turning the ball over in ways that weren't forced by the Aztec defense.
Yeah.
And if they just hadn't done that, and it's like they got like the smallest guy on the court trying to score down low, just things that don't really make a ton of sense. But it's March, and that's why they call it March Madness. Then like they looked every bit as talented as San Diego State.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm definitely happy to go against the Mountain West with probably my favorite to win the tournament, Bama. And my final pick, I'm going to go Florida Atlantic over Tennessee. So Florida Atlantic plus 225. That's saying they should be about a 30% chance to win, but 538 tells me 34%. So I am getting some value here. Tennessee, obviously huge win against Duke, but haven't looked that good down the stretch, missing their primary ball handler. And Florida Atlantic, I mean, to my surprise, I bet Memphis, they looked good. I mean, Memphis, you could say, probably should have won that game or whatever, but Florida Atlantic really looks the part.
Did you catch the end of the FAU Fairleigh Dickinson game?
No, I didn't watch any of that.
So the kid for Florida Atlantic, at the end of the game, it got to be a tight game, but then it was out of hand. Fairleigh Dickinson stopped playing defense. Final seconds, kid goes up to attempt a 360 windmill for Florida Atlantic. Everyone started booing him. Tobin Anderson, who I mentioned before, Fairleigh Dickinson coach, got pissed.
Oh, good God.
What do you think about that? Because my opinion, what bothered me is that he missed the dunk.
That's one of those things that if you're on Fairleigh Dickinson's side here, you're the coach, players, fan, whatever, you're not really mad. You're mad that you lost.
Correct.
And that's fine. You should be mad that you lost, but you're not really mad the kid did the 360 dunk. That's not really what you're mad about. That's like when the pitcher gives up the big home run and the guy bat flips and they get mad. You're not mad that he bat flipped. You're mad that you gave up the home run.
1,000% agree. You do have to make the dunk, though.
Yeah.
That'd be like if you went to do a bat flip and you hit yourself with a bat and knocked yourself out. You got to make the dunk. All right. Was that all the picks?
That's it.
Fantastic. So, as I mentioned in the previous segment with Danny, Brett is going to be joining us for the MLB preview as well. That's going to drop Monday. In the meantime, just listen to this, watch some basketball, and we will see you then.